Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Pull Up Trade Podcast, the podcast that I, Samson Folk, do with my dear friend Trevon. The shorthand is Trey. He is the Trey that pulls up. Trevon, Trey, however you want it. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's good to have some basketball games like early in the week to just get the week flowing. A nice back to back. We got a surprising dub. Maybe not surprising. Sixers aren't that good, but we got a win this week. The Raptors have been making big noise, so I'm ready to talk about it and dig into it a little bit.
This was like the transaction week, obviously, because it's the trade
Yeah.
deadline, obviously, and Brandon Ingram coming to the Raptors. That's
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest things they've ever done. As crazy as it sounds, like I know Brandon Ingram isn't guaranteed to change the way that this franchise goes forward, but as far as how they went after him, and it's not often they trade. Like it used to be that they traded for a guy like Sean Marion, you
Yeah.
know, and Sean has had a great career, and there's stuff, and like Turkoglu the signing, but like it was always it seems like Brandon is considered a second tier star,
Yeah.
but the Raptors more so were getting like the fourth tier, like Jermaine O'Neal down the road too.
Oh,
I,
that
I
trade was so bad.
dude, they- maybe we will start there then. Well, actually, wait, how you doing? I guess there's basketball, but
Yes.
Eagles won, black
Oh,
quarterback victory. Good
that
way to start it off.
That was luckily, we were all together and we had a good Super Bowl party. That was one of the worst Super Bowls I have ever watched. It I was I was tired heading into the 4th quarter thinking like, "Man, when is this game over?"
You,
Insane.
it was a mess, dude. And
Yeah.
it just seems like I don't know if I was a kid. I don't know if I was just like 20 years old, but games used to be closer. Are we getting old, dude? Like you know what I mean? Does it feel
Yeah.
that way to you as well?
I just feel like like, our tolerance is just low. Like, I was looking at the clock like, "Man, sleep would really hit right now." There's no chance the Chiefs can win. Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball on the ground. The Eagles are already celebrating on the sideline. It felt like mid-3rd quarter. I feel like I'm just not up for it. Around 10:30, 11 o'clock, there needs to my brain needs to be doing, like, something, like, actively fun. Like, I need to be at the gym or
Mm,
something like that, or, like,
actively fun, the gym.
the
Oh,
gym is
dude.
fun. It's the
This
greatest test of being a man.
that's what you told me last time. This is where you and I differ. I'm like, "Oh, dude, this is so boring." But you're like, "Dude, the real grinders find." Is that what you enjoy, the grind of it?
Yeah, bro. You're
Do
just
you
building
have
and
do you have
stacking and
dumbbells in the bottom corner of your screen? Are you that type of grinder, dude?
oh, it's a humbling experience. You're building and stacking and getting new things. If it wasn't snowing right now, after this, I'd be going to the gym. But
Oh, man, the snow is nuts. I didn't even leave
yeah,
my house today. I've just been doing a lot of work because it's not been the whole season that people are really interested in, let's say, Raptors work or content.
fair enough.
We're in a pocket right now where people want to read, listen, and watch stuff. I'm like, hey, I'll give it to you. Not everybody was interested when I pointed out that Gradey was technically the most efficient driver in his draft class.
Yeah,
But you could say anything about Brandon Ingram, there's going to be like 10,000 people show up to be like, I'm interested. What's going on? Let's start there
yeah,
because you were a huge proponent of the Ingram trade, big fan of his game. You and I like how he fits on the team. I think he and Scottie, despite sharing some overlap, they make sense as a star
yep.
duo going forward. They have a chance to really help each other. But we got not only the extension, but he gets introduced. What did you make of the quotes, the money, all that kind of stuff?
I think it was great. I think it's like a line in the sand. This is like the first time a guy of like his level has actively chosen to want to be here, which is really good. It says a lot about the city. It says a lot about like the franchise and organization and the young guys we have on the team. I think that's super awesome. In terms of like the overall contract, while it doesn't allow for the upside that you probably would have wanted if with a longer term deal, if Brandon does pop off, you do give yourself the opportunity to get a 2 year look at what he can do, reevaluate from there, and either rehab his value and flip him for something more, somewhere else he wants to be, or sign him to a contract. And if he makes the All Star team the next 2 seasons, I'd gladly pay him more than $40 million. Like, that wouldn't be an issue. That'd be an awesome scenario for the Raptors. So it's a great situation for both parties. And I'm really excited to see all the guys around Brandon be within a role that probably best suits them. Like you saw it in this game today. The Raptors are desperate for someone
Yeah.
that can put the ball on the floor, play make outside of Scottie, and put guys like Quickley, Scottie, RJ in situations where they can now work off of somebody else, play finish, or like orbit around in our IQ sense. It makes the team make a lot more sense. And now there's something directional to look at. Like the Raptors are trying to make the playoffs next year, and it's going to be refreshing, probably for especially you going to the games and and seeing the product. It's going to be night and day next year. So I'm super excited.
It's true what you say though. When I'm thinking of it, like I'm imagining the 2025-26 All-Star rosters. You have to imagine like 80, 75, 80% of those
Yeah,
teams. All those guys are going to be making like 40 million and up.
yeah,
I presume. And yeah, that's what I'm actually going to name this podcast. Is something about the Raptors have like set their future, something to that
yeah,
sense. Also, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the show. We've got a lot of new viewers lately, actually, who have really been enjoying but more than anything, the analysis of Brandon Ingram. I hope
yeah,
you guys get ready to enjoy the rest of the team and learn about them who have come over with Brandon, because players have huge fan bases now, and Brandon, his game is so goddamn pretty. It makes
hmm
sense that he has this huge, fan base. In other things, like Trey and I will be talking about Jacoby Walter later today. Brandon was saying like that's his rook now. Obviously, they have an affinity for each other. Right away, we'll be talking about Jonathan Mogbo,
yeah,
who's had a good stretch of basketball. RJ returned and had a really nice game, 27 points in pretty short order. And you and I discovered how we're talked about on Reddit. Dude, insane, man. Oh yeah, that's why I thought about it, because I wanted to say when I was doing the podcast with Joe Wolfond, and I said that
hmm
I expected Ingram to be closer to 50 than he was to 35. Obviously, I was wrong about that, but I wasn't saying they were going to give Ingram 50.
yeah,
He wasn't even eligible for that much, firstly.
yeah,
But I thought that Ingram would be somewhere like maybe like 43, 44. I think they got him down to 38.1, 40.1, 40,
yeah.
whatever it is, because they gave that player option. And also, at no point did I ever say that Kelly Olynyk is better than Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Somebody DM'd me that somebody was spreading these nasty lies about me on Reddit. Dude, what in the world?
But
Uh, let's
who
talk
who'd
about.
even think of this take? Like I watched. We talked about this the other day. I watched LaFort and Yabusele make us eat dirt for for 40 minutes and lose
Dude,
in the Olympics.
that
Oh, because
sucked,
of our
man.
takes. I truly believed in my heart bronze would have been a disappointment. I
Yes.
thought we were going to at bare minimum get silver,
We were
and I
talking
didn't even.
so much shit to Kai and AB, and like we were
Yeah.
just talking all that trash.
Oh,
I wanted
hey,
one over Noah Lyles. That Olympics, we got some unique wins, some maybe not so unique ones. We'll keep
yeah,
going on the Raptors side with a Canadian, an Olympian. RJ Barrett returned. Just kind of like in a quick sense, he missed a handful of games with concussion protocol. He made a return against the Cavaliers. He was far and away, and I mean far and away, the most interesting
yeah.
offensive player in that game. 27 points on 18 shots, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He actually had 3 steals. He was better in the passing lanes than I might have expected. And what did you make of his pop or his burst offensively in his return?
His ability to drive, it's just like so unique on this team. The Cavs are one of the best teams at stopping the opposing team from getting to the rim. Their front court is absolutely massive. Mobley's super rangy. You saw that today. The
Mm-hmm.
mere difference of how the Raptors are able to get in the paint versus the Sixers against like a drop big who's more like bludgeon with his feet, like Joel Embiid, compared to Evan Mobley and Jared Allen is night and day. But RJ, because of that second step he takes and that extra pop he gets once he goes left is kind of unstoppable. Like I've been waiting for like the floor to just drop on that for maybe a year plus, and he still gets to the rim. It's not an issue. Teams have a really hard time because he's able to counter that stuff. And I think the beauty of it, of what he's doing, and why I think he's still going to be a great fit and not really going to be affected much by Brandon Ingram, is everything he gets was usually within the flow of the offense. That's him coming down, curling to the rim, getting a curl drive and attacking it in that standpoint, and having a guy like Brandon Ingram that should have his own gravity and be able to handle the ball. He's going to get a lot of those possessions as well, and maybe Scottie does too. So I think the overall efficiency of the offense will increase, and the spot up shooting that RJ has shown probably the last, like, I think 20-25 games has really made him such a almost the perfect complementary player offensively for what the Raptors are looking for and what the essence of that offense is. So I'm super excited to just see what that looks like and see those guys together, because I think there's an opportunity for the Raptors offense to honestly be one of the better in the NBA.
It should be really interesting to see how
Yeah.
it shakes out because and to your point, in the last 5 years, the Cavs, as far as, like, defending the rim, the accuracy they allow there, they were 5th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and are 1st this year. So they do a pretty good job
Yeah.
of guarding the rim. But knowing how Scottie and Ingram like to get their buckets, knowing that this team is not only a little bit light on driving prowess,
Mhm.
they are dependent on RJ. Knowing that they're extremely light on pull up three prowess, they're dependent to some degree on Emmanuel Quickley shooting, but neither of those guys are prioritized a bunch. And going forward, obviously, the messaging is around Ingram and Scottie, and the team will, like, if the messaging is that way, that's how the organization feels typically.
Mhm.
We'll see what gets prioritized. But RJ has shown an ability to kind of like fit into places where he's not, like, it's not glamorous and he just goes and scores the ball regardless. I think he'll continue doing that. I don't know what the organization's plans are. I know some people do kind of bristle at the idea. A lot of people immediately started throwing RJ in trade packages.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way, but you understand the team has been kind of non-committal to RJ despite, like, maybe it being different going the other way. What I
Mhm.
want to ask you about, because we are talking about driving offensive roles, we have Scottie Barnes versus Matt Bonner. We we didn't get to talk we didn't get to talk about this that much. Scottie had one of his best games of the season against the 76ers,
Mhm.
was super efficient. You and I podcasted after the game against the Nets where he scored that 35. And we're like, this is great. We want to see this all the time.
Every day.
What happened afterwards was that Scottie has had to carry a large portion of the offense and has been, like, relatively very inefficient doing so.
Mhm.
Uh, Matt, like, Blake is definitely friend of the show. He was on last week. I've met Matt. I've talked to him a couple times. He's great. But what do you think? What's going on, dude?
If Matt Bonner can motivate this young man in that way and produce that vigor again, I will personally thank him. I think the comment or like quote is like totally justified. He Scottie's gotten a lot of opportunity to set the table, become that driver that the Raptors need to be in order to open up a lot of the stuff that they do along the perimeter that Darko's scheme allows. And he struggled in that, which I think is fine. The whole point of this season was to identify what are his key strengths, how should we build around these guys, and I think that's kind of why they made a bold move in getting a guy like Brandon Ingram that can take the ball from him and allow him to work within the spots that are easiest for him. I think overall, like, he has the ability to separate with strength, but then if you're if you're super dependent on your strength and bruising your way through the rim, there's just going to be certain matchups that don't yield well for that. Like this Cavs matchup, they
Yeah.
have two humongous bigs. We've seen him play against them multiple times, and it's been a struggle. The Raptors have struggled tremendously against. The league has struggled tremendously against the Cavs. But I think we've seen these issues now, which is why I think within his game he's leaned more into taking jumpers. That mid-range shot has kind of been his counter now when he isn't able to get into the overall rim. And I would like to see overall is if you aren't able to get to the rim, can you utilize your playmaking then to open up things for other guys if you can't get all the way, and then also be able to reseal, get early catches, junk man your way to an efficient 20 points. We've seen him do that with Pascal Siakam. I don't think his the long term the long-term growth for him is being a guy that 30 to 35% of your shots are jump shots. I think it's him being at the rim, being one of the better cutter finishers in the league, and having a guy like Brandon that helps a lot of that. So I think what Matt said was completely justified. I do like he was motivated though,
Yeah.
but I need to see it over multiple games.
I watched the Red Sox like comeback documentary on Netflix, and this reminded me of like Nomar Garcia Parra. He would like the shock jock radio guys were talking shit, and he called in, and he's like, "Hey man, what the hell, dude?" And and he would call into the show and talk trash about the organization as well, and it just made me think about how, like, I don't know what clip it was, but Matt Bonner, like Scottie Barnes randomly coming across a Matt Bonner clip of him being
Yeah,
like, "You can't dribble, bro," is like, it's kind of insane. And then that
yeah,
having a correlation to the game. I wrote the piece after the game where, in my estimation, of course, there can be motivation. Scottie can be motivated by anything. I mean, Michael Jordan, years after he retired, was making a documentary where he said the Utah pizza man poisoned him. You know
like
what? Like,
it just an insane lie, like chemical warfare in basketball.
oh, dude, that rocks so hard. But in my estimation, it was, to throw back to Lasort and Yabusele. Yabusele and Paul George and Jared Butler and Justin Edwards and all these, Kelly Oubre. Nobody that, and especially Joel Embiid, who is already planning his off-season surgeries. None of those guys, either the bigger guys, are not close to the foot speed necessary to hang with Scottie, and the other guys are just too slight. And
Yeah.
credit to Scottie for being more aggressive, but I thought that the defense that the 76ers played allowed Scottie to do that.
Mhm.
Obviously, the Cavaliers is not the same thing because they do play a lot of drop, but even tonight they played switch. Like
Yeah.
Jared Allen went out on Scottie, and then so we see jumpers. We see like 16 points on like 49% true shooting. It's not been easy. But to your
Yeah.
point, is like, this is Scotty stretching his legs. And of
Mhm.
course, it's like the way that everybody was super quick to call him Kawhi or call him Giannis is like, you want to be able to immediately give those tags. Like, you want it to be good.
Yeah.
But the good thing about Scotty is, and I got a little bit of crap for this when I was named one of the Scotty cult members, is like, people was like, he's not a star. And it's like, yeah, dude, the crazy thing about Scotty is that he is a star, even though he has like 52% true shooting, even though it's taking him 17 shots a game to score 20 points. It's not been easy for him, but his
Mhm.
defense has ratcheted way up, and
Special.
the defense hasn't dipped in like 30 games.
Yeah.
That that's pretty absurd. So, as much as he's working his way through, offensive stuff, and as much as like I've critiqued the offensive process all season, it's not my favorite. And as you said, you're waiting for the playmaking to come around with the mid-range shooting. It hasn't
Mhm.
popped off yet.
Yeah.
Perhaps it will towards the end of the season into the future. But like, Scotty keeps himself on the floor night in and night out. As mucky and gross as it can be on one end, he just hangs in there by being a monster on defense, dude.
Yeah. We and the cool thing is like we've already kind of seen him in like the potential role that him and Brandon might be. Like him and he was scoring, he was getting to 20 points a game with Pascal like super efficiently. And if this level of defense is there along with that, with much easier spot up opportunities and hopefully better playmaking. His playmaking is great, but like with playmaking, that's an all NBA player. That's super impactful in the playoffs. And if you have a guy that can help lead an offense and Scotty can help parade a team to a top 10 defense, that's the recipe for a playoff team and one that's really frisky.
It's Oh, you love that frisky term. What a term
I
it
was
is, though, you know?
when they were down 18, I was like 8 points away from saying this was like a nice frisky loss.
Yeah, man, it didn't end up being very close. It should be interesting though. Like, that is the thing about these Raptors. It is, I think a bunch of different people wrote the article or did a podcast or did a video about how, this Darko has done a decent job of implementing some things, but how the Raptors decide to use the talent at their disposal now, that is how you assess Darko. Is like, well, it wasn't exactly ideal offensively for some
Mm.
time. Now you've got stuff. Now
Yep.
you got to make stuff happen. It should be really interesting to see what happens with these guys. And Gradey, geez, he didn't play very well this past game. He found his way in the second half of that 76ers game, but on the whole, he's been struggling overall. Hopefully the Rising Stars game is enjoyable for him. Hopefully, the time off he can eat, put on some weight.
We get beefy.
Yeah, dude. It's like he went through a dirty burn, dude. Like the guys who
Yeah.
show up to the gym in the
Yep.
garbage bag and they're like, dude, I ate the grossest food and I'm ready to work it off, brother. This NBA season, I think he's lost all the weight he put on, and he needs that strength to
Yeah.
make his 2-motion shot work. It requires a lot of core. It requires a lot of stuff up top, especially
Yeah.
from that NBA range. And we'll talk about the young guys who surround the pseudo stars and stars that the Raptors have collected. We'll see how it goes. But guys like Jacoby Walter, Jonathan Mogbo, pretty interesting rookie seasons. We'll dive into what they've been doing well and where they've struggled, but not until we say that this podcast is sponsored by Axe, presented even. And I'll tell you what, you've left middle school, so have we. That is that. Oh my goodness. Sea mist and grapefruit. Smells great, man. No longer in middle school. Axe draws on 40 years, dude, of body spray
Wow.
research and the expertise of the world's leading perfumers to craft quality fragrances and bring continual innovation aimed to help young guys feel confident in their own skin. I tell you what, I spray this sea mist and grapefruit, dude. I start feeling confident, man.
Yes, sir.
You can find the Raptors 30th anniversary limited edition collection available for a limited time only at all major retailers. That's including Walmart, Shoppers Drug Mart, and the Real Canadian Superstore. I'll tell you what, Jacoby Walter. This is the thing. The Raptors haven't had a home run rookie since Scottie Barnes,
Yeah.
and at least in like the early steps, like Scottie was the guy, there's very famous commentary about his lack of offense coming into the draft. And then he scored 15 points per game his rookie year. He won rookie of the year. He popped, dude. And
Immediately.
he has changed. Like, imagine this franchise. Every once in a while, I shudder at the thought that Josh Giddey was selected instead of Scottie Barnes,
Oh
dude.
man.
That's bad news Bears. But Jacoby Walter is a guy who the numbers don't pop. And Gradey year one, the numbers didn't pop. And even some numbers this year are underwhelming. And like Mogbo, you have to look further for the numbers. But you look further and you like what you see. Jacoby, I know you're big on him. I'm big on him. Let's talk about him. He's had a good run of play lately. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I think he's showing you like what he could potentially be in terms of like an upside play. Like the defense, he's always been quick enough to stay with his men. We've saw that in Baylor also. Like I do think he needs like a summer to get a little beefier as well. But like he's been handling the bumps a lot better than initially when we had a discussion about them
And like
drafting him.
way better than Gradey as well.
Yeah.
Like
So
that's
like
the comparison. The two guard is way
yeah,
above.
night and day. Like his defense, I think, is going to be a level where I think that is the leading component to him potentially becoming a starter in the league or just becoming a quality rotation player, a guy that can defend at the point of attack. And if the Raptors are really like held to this scheme, this might be one of the guys that help platoon that early pickup role with whoever they have else on the team. His shooting has come around, and I've always think mechanically he's been a good shooter. He had that
Mhm.
pedigree in high school. College it didn't necessarily pan out the same way, and even in the league right now. But when he's shooting the ball well, like he has the last 10 games or so, he wins minutes and is worth being on the floor because the defense pops and his 3-point shooting and the simplicity that he plays within fits that point five play. Jacoby isn't trying to do anything crazy on the ball. He once he gets an advantage, he either tries to extend it with a drive or he's shooting a three. And that's you need rotation guys that are very simplistic that fit around the I guess the core four that they have now offensively. You want other guys that don't necessarily need the ball a lot. So I think his role adjusts slightly. Like you're probably never seeing another Jacoby Walter step back again, but I I I like what I'm seeing overall, and I think he's a guy that potentially next year there's a stretch of games where he starts for you while you're in a pinch and it goes like fairly well.
Yeah. The Jacoby step back thing is like, if he ends up being awesome defensively, the
Yeah.
guy we watched OG, the Raptors placated his offensive steps for like 2.5 years. He's so
Yeah.
good defensively. They're like, all right, man, you get to try and boogie woogie, dude. Like, see if you can make it happen. Jacoby had a couple really nice plays out of the pick and roll on offense against the Knicks, and he did. He had a step back three out of the pick and roll against the Knicks. I think it was against Jericho Sims, if I remember correctly. But there is an interesting thing. Oh, to your point about the shot mechanics, like he's shooting like 31% from three on the
Yeah.
season, but you and I did a podcast where we kind of zoomed in on Jacoby earlier in the year, and we found a horrific number that he was shooting 18% on his unguarded threes.
Yeah.
And that was an aberration because, again, you look at his shot mechanics where Gradey's is a lot of moving parts, and you think like, wow, there's a lot going on here. Jacoby's is very simplistic.
Yeah.
Like it's very clean. It's very easy. And on his last 30 unguarded threes, he's shooting 43%. So that's kind of something you and I have been tracking, paying attention to. It's coming around. He's also shooting 43% on the season on his pull-up twos because he can counter. And to your point, man, like playing around a bunch of those guys, maybe not having that many step-back threes
Yeah.
available to you, he cuts. He
Mhm.
loves to cut. He loves to hunt for rebounds. Now, do you want the crazy, super odd statistic that is currently plaguing Jacoby Walter?
Give it to me.
Okay,
Mm.
so per synergy, and I hate reporting this,
Yeah.
and I'll start with this. Jacoby is recognized by synergy as quite a strong isolation defender. And my eye test tells me, and your eye test tells you, and
Yeah.
we've talked about it, he's pretty sticky. That's
Mhm.
good. Now, Synergy Synergy has him as the worst pick and roll ball handling defender in the database, uh, which is not ideal, obviously. When he guards the pick and roll ball handler, they are scoring 1.385 points per possession, which is massive. That is
Yeah.
that is a lot of points to give up. And so some of this, I went and watched as many as I could. Like I watched like 60 possessions in a row, just seeing what's happening. And I'll tell you right now, Jacoby is hung out to dry more often by his big men because he plays with the bench more often. It is
Yeah.
harder to uphold good pick and roll defense when your big man is Orlando Robinson or or when it's not Jakob, it's a little
Yeah.
bit tougher. When it's Kelly Olynyk, it's a little bit tougher. And even Jonathan Mogbo is like, you don't end up guarding the pick and roll ball handler a bunch because Jonathan Mogbo is in a switch scheme, so he's kicking
Mhm.
guys out, and then you're not even playing defense on that
Yeah.
possession. The stats won't recognize it. Anyway, Jacoby's getting hung out to dry a little bit, but also there's a little bit of fault here. Jacoby, for all the stickiness he has in isolation and as wiry as he has been, he's getting duped around screens pretty often. I don't know if this is partly a communication thing with the guy behind him. As you know, you've been a big
Yeah.
guarding screens, like talking to
Yeah.
your guy up front is important.
Mhm.
Sometimes Jacoby looks blindsided, but he's had trouble navigating screens, and guys have very easily put him in jail. He's had a lot of trouble getting back into spots and affecting it. And yeah, I hate saying that the database says that he is the worst, but the defense is better than that. I think we're just looking at, there's some hot shooting packaged in there.
Mm.
There's quite a
Yeah.
few jump shots made, particularly in the mid range
Mhm.
against Jacoby. He's not had a bunch of help from his big men, and Jacoby just needs work at navigating screens and like
Yeah.
sticking with guys too. It'll come around, but he's still very optimistic about his defense. He moves his feet really well. He holds his space really well when he's not navigating a screen. Does that surprise you, by the way, that last place placement?
The Raptors defense was bad for a really, really long. So bad. So not last is surprising. Like it not being good, like makes total sense. Like every guard that wasn't Davion Mitchell was getting absolutely destroyed in the pick and roll. So that makes a lot of sense. And they're playing much higher than we anticipated, like on pick and rolls than I suspected earlier in the year.
So Jacoby is the 0th percentile. I don't know how you say it,
Zero with.
0th. Jonathan Mogbo is 95th. Jonathan Mogbo is unreal. He
Yeah.
he plays a switch scheme. You can watch him guard stars in the NBA and do a good job. You can watch guys who do it with strength and craft, like Jimmy Butler, have trouble against Mobo. You can watch guys who do it with explosion, like Anthony Edwards, have trouble with Mobo. It is a little bit reminiscent of how Precious was for a time
Yeah.
on this Raptors team, where he'd just kick guys out and stick with them. We watched Precious do it with Luka and Giannis, and oh geez, halcyon
Yeah.
days, early 2022. Oh my god,
Oh,
where have you been? But Mobo has done a really good job. The only thing that's concerning is that Mobo already gives up a bit of an advantage on the offensive glass to the other
yeah.
team because he's undersized. But what happens? And it was funny because I had that tweet about it, and then Blake was updating me every time he saw it in the game, even tonight. Is Mobo kicks a guy out, steps out on a switch, forces a miss, and whoever the big switched onto, they just
Yeah.
go and offensive rebound while Mobo's on the perimeter, and it's like, well, damn. Like, it's like a team, they miss a shot and create it's a Kobe assist, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, Mobo, his defense is so good. He's creating a bunch of Mobo, of, I guess, Kobe assists. What have you made of the defense overall, though? I guess, of
Yeah.
Mobo.
It's a credit to the greatest scout in the world, Josh Coordinator, but his his defense is way ahead of schedule than I suspected. I thought a lot of his defensive impact would come from his vertical pop, him being a help side guy, blowing up possessions maybe off ball with his athleticism. And I don't think the athleticism from like a vertical standpoint has actually popped in the way that I think I suspected it at least. Um, but his lateral movement and his ability to stick on guys has kind of changed the way I think I view him as an overall player. There's opportunity where you can throw him in multiple different positions like within the lineup. I thought at one point he probably only could play your small ball five, and he would have to be sticky on the glass and be a really good vertical player overall. But I think one, like, the shot mechanics look a lot cleaner than it was a year ago
It's like
overall.
you meet that guy who started playing basketball at
Yeah,
24, and they weren't like a 7-year-old trying to get the ball up to the rim, so
yeah,
their shot mechanics are really simple. Because there's something to playing the sport your whole life, but when you come to the sport new and you're just like, "Oh, I'll just shoot it and keep it
yeah,
simple," you have less going on in your jumper. But
yeah,
when you play your whole life and you're like a small kid, your jumper looks insane because
yeah, it's
you
just
have some of
everywhere.
those holdovers. Mobo's looks pretty simple. It doesn't look
Yeah,
beautiful, but it's pretty clean, I guess. Simple.
yeah, it's definitely functional, and if he's able to, like, stick on wings, you can throw him in a lot of different lineups. Like, you could potentially have a situation where you play him and Scottie together in bench lineups, and you're switching everything across the board. And ideally, Scott's like ability to rebound helps like circumvent any of those issues.
Maybe big
He
boy Ingram helps out on the glass a little bit.
exactly like
It's not
they're
it's
gonna
not
be
historically been his bag, but we'll see.
but they're gonna be a long, funky team when he's like thrown in the lineup. And you saw Boucher and Precious won a lot of minutes because it was
Yep.
just an issue to deal with. They're super long. They're mobile. They're winning on the glass, and most bench lineups just like aren't equipped to deal with those level of athletes. And mobile appears to offer a lot of the same things, but with more like upside feel, like offensively. Like he can hit the Raptors like fake big man passes. He has good feel and ability to cut overall. I do want to see more like touch inside of the rim. Like a push shot for him is probably going to be a make or break for him being like a steady rotational player, but his defense has now like risen the floor of where he can be as an NBA player. And to be honest, like for pick 31, like I'm very happy with the outcome we've gotten as a rookie. I wouldn't say it's like an immediate pop like some of the other guys that like have been in the second round,
Jalen
but
Wills, the big one, I guess,
yeah,
yeah. Even Desmond
at
Bain
eight,
before him.
yeah, oh,
The
Bane,
Grizzlies really know how to pick a guard in the second round lately.
they they've been missing like higher in the draft like
Yeah.
routines, but then they've been nailing every low first or second round pick. But like an AJ Mitchell, he was popping off
Mhm.
great early in the season, but Mogbo looks like a guy that's going to be in the rotation next year. and a guy that you probably want to play and feature to help you win minutes.
So, to your point about the defense holding up, it's not just the 95th percentile pick and roll ball handler defense, but he's been elite guarding spot ups, closeouts, and isolations as well. Like he's just been fantastic at keeping the ball in front, and that's defense, dude. There's a
Yeah.
lot of other things that Mogbo he's not been that clean in rotation. I think he's made a lot of mistakes in coverage, but when it's simple and it's just like keep the ball in front, he's been you could argue outside of Davion Mitchell, maybe the most impressive player on the roster as far as that goes. You mentioned the push shot being a make or break thing. You and I have really been paying attention to this because a lot of people were worried about the jumper coming in because he had
Yeah.
been not taking a three shot 45%
Yeah.
from the free throw line. It's scary hours, dude.
Yeah.
And he's been much better from the free throw line and from three than people would have anticipated. But I went and rewatched all of his at rim finishes today since he rejoined the team, found his way into the rotation again. And it's still hanging around like
Yeah.
55%. For a big man, that's not good. And especially
Mhm.
for a guy in college who he dunked everything.
Everything.
That's why he was such a, a darling in the advanced stats was it was like, well, yeah, there's this guy named Giannis Mogbo playing on the San Francisco team. He dunks everything. And that's not travel to the NBA. So
Yeah.
what have you made of the craft around the rim and like the pop, I suppose?
Yeah, the vertical pop has been like really surprising, or like overall. I think like that's probably him still dealing with like some physicality. It's gotten better. Like preseason, like it looked very scary. He looked like he was having a real time adjusting to like actual NBA length.
Hmm.
But I think the craft isn't there because oftentimes he's like fairly rushed heading into the rim. Like his push shot is usually coming off of Scottie dumping the ball off or RJ dumping the ball off in that sort of fashion. And a lot of that has been rushed, not within like the feel of the offense, him coming down or cutting. I think him understanding like his pathway and roll when he's rolling with the big or cutting with a big still needs to get a lot better because a lot of those opportunities have been a lot harder for him just simply because his pathway in terms of rolling and cutting has been in like conjunction with the actual ball handler itself. Like he's often like rolling into other guys, rolling into the other defender, and not actually creating that vertical space that we've had. I think some of that in San Francisco. Now thinking about the tape, guys were getting out of the way when he was because he was
Well,
dunking
aura,
everything.
dude. He had aura. That's crazy, dude.
So he actually never had a situation where he needed to stop himself short in order to get the ball and then take a push shot or think about him being the lob finisher because he was just running through everyone. So I think that's going to take some time overall and he'll get better.
He played in a worse conference as well. I guess
Yeah.
like the size relative to him was not nearly as big as the NBA. I'm really like he had that big lob he caught today off like Scottie. It looked like Scottie had no idea what he was doing, but it was big brain. He just pushed the ball way into the air and Mogbo just went and caught it. And it was because
Yeah.
they came like the Cavaliers were playing at a higher level, and that meant that Mogbo could beat everybody with his speed and his pop. But what's happening, as you mentioned, like Mogbo is being put in positions where it's like him mano y mano with a guy
Yeah.
who's 3 inches taller, 4 inches taller on average. Like, and who knows how that even correlates to the standing reach. Like he might be
Mhm.
giving up like 6, 7 inches every time he goes to battle, and
Yeah.
and who knows how many pounds. Like that's a tough thing to win. It should be really interesting to see, I guess, what his counter is to that ultimately. I do like that he can go get a lob, but you need to be able to take the bounce pass, the pocket pass, and one dribble and punch it. And that was something he did very well in college, but has not manifested at the NBA level. Uh, we have an All-Star break coming up. Do you have any predictions for All-Star weekend? I'm gonna watch like none of it, dude. I
I don't think I'm gonna I don't think
we're
I'm gonna
dude,
watch any of it.
we're like the TNT panel. We're like, we don't love basketball, dude. We just talk
I
trash. I don't think I'm gonna watch it.
I don't know, Kenny. They don't have any stars. But
Dude, did Chuck the other day was like, they're tricking y'all, man. The prop. I shouldn't be doing this anyway.
this What has the dunk off?
He was like, "It's poor people versus rich people," and I was like, "Dude, he's
Yeah,
cooking."
he was spinning. Yeah. Okay,
But
I'm trying to think. Let me. Uh,
Castle's been kind
I
of fun in open play.
yeah,
Buzelis, I know, like, Kenny Beecham and them, a friend of the show, Kenny Beecham, they were, like, previewing Buzelis's, his dunk
yeah.
competition dunks, and they had the big reaction. I think they're putting it on, man. I don't think he's that nice with it.
Oh, before we get into this, what are your thoughts on like the unrivaled like one-on-one
Dude,
tournament for their All-Star game?
okay, so I've not tuned in.
Yeah,
Because obviously it's tough to watch, and it's been very busy in the Raptors world lately, but that is so sick. They
yep.
they are
It's a
knocking
movie.
it out of the park, man, and the thing
It's a
is,
movie.
some of those women are mean, dude. They're, like,
Yes.
mean when they play, and the time limit is really good to limit the amount of
Mm,
post-ups. That's incredible. All it makes I'm just like, not only do I just enjoy that as its own thing, it's like anytime a clip comes across, I watch it fully. The retention
yep.
rate side of it, I'm probably sitting at 140% viewed or something like that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
locked in. It doesn't matter if it's 3 minutes, it doesn't matter if it's 14 or 14 seconds. And it makes me want the NBA to do that. But they're too scared,
Yeah.
man. They're too
It's too
scared,
weak,
dude.
man. Eagles too fragile. Like that has been like an absolute hit. I've watched every single matchup. The only thing
Yes,
I
dude.
probably would change is like I probably wouldn't have bigs play against guards. I probably like maybe separate the brackets. But other than that, like
You see yourself
they're
out there? Okay.
but like they're competing. Like I'd rather the Rising Star game like be that than watch whatever they're going to do
Yeah.
on Friday.
It's
But
awesome. To your point though, and like I will echo this sentiment, the clock is very friendly towards guards
yeah,
because you and I have played one-on-one many times. I know when the game slows down, it's bad news for me, dude. Like when you decide you're gonna put your back to the basket, I'm like, ooh,
yeah,
okay, well, he's gonna get exactly where he wants now. It seems more guard friendly for sure. But
yeah.
it's great, dude. Like full 5 thumbs up, as much as I can possibly give. Uh, yeah, I wish the NBA did that so
Yeah,
much.
1,000%.
All-Star Weekend. Okay, so we're talking about what they're not doing because they're not
Yeah,
cool enough to do it.
it's just
Because
terrible, but,
I guess they're
like,
doing the 3-point thing again, right? Who's
no,
com
they're not
Wait, they're not doing it?
no, Caitlyn turned it down, they're not doing, like, the
Wait, isn't Sabrina isn't doing it or anything like that?
no, I think she isn't she unrivaled? No, I don't
Oh,
think she
dude, okay, they blew it,
This is
dude. I
terrible.
don't like, I'm obviously, it's my job. I have to watch Gradey in the Rising Stars game and then, like,
Yeah,
break down 6 points on 7 shots or something like that, you know? Do the film breakdown, I'm not sure, but, I mean, man, uh, I don't know what you're tuning in for this weekend, man.
it's rough, like, I guess if you're, like
I mean, I guess S is going there, right? I
yeah,
want him to have
that's
fun,
true.
enjoy.
I guess if you're like a Warrior fan, like it's in San Francisco, like you this is probably like the last time Steph will probably be able to have an All-Star game in his city. That's super cool. One of the last few like of the older gentlemen like LeBron and Katie. It's just like insane that they're like they're almost 40. But like
That was I
LeBron
was
is
looking at
40.
I was looking at that the other day because when DeMar had 42 points and hit the game winner, I was like, "That's awesome." And I looked, he's 35, he's almost 36. Kobe only played until he was 37. And Kobe,
Wow.
by the time he was 37, dude, he was a bad player, man. Like, he scored 60.
The
That
worst.
60-point performance was incredible. It's one of the great feats ever accomplished on a
Yeah.
basketball court. The last game, like, incredible, even though I think Gordon Hayward let him get the shot.
Yeah.
Anyway anyway, but KD and Steph and LeBron, they just make the age thing seem like it's not a thing. Like
Yeah.
it's a trickling. You can see they're losing it a bit, but they're also old now that it's like players just didn't even play by then. Like Kobe was supposed to be this guy who couldn't be toppled, and by
Mhm.
34 he was like, I might be able to give you 22 tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
LeBron, I don't even know his numbers right now. All I know is they're insane for a 40-year-old
Yeah.
man.
He's
Yeah.
the youngest player to get a 40-point game, oldest player to get a 40-point game, which is incredible. Like, I think it's like they're used as a standard now. Like Jimmy Butler got a 2-year deal when he's going to be around that age too at the end of it. And 10 years ago, you would even fathom giving a max contract to someone
Yeah.
that old.
Jimmy is driven by spite, though. It's very powerful stuff, you know? Like, they probably when they heard how pissed he was at the Heat, they're like, "Okay, we'll give you $121 million over 2 years. Like, we'll make it work."
Yeah.
Dude, I guess okay, then
That
you and I are
that
not excited for the All-Star weekend.
so I think this is a a moment for the NBA. Stop being cowards. We want to watch one on one. Imagine we got to see Jalen Green and Cade, knowing what we know, play one on one.
Dude, even,
It'd be awesome.
like, and this is a little bit, like, scandalous of me to suggest, so forgive me, but there are some players that, like, have kids with the same woman across the NBA. Watching those guys line up, are you kidding me, dude?
That'd be. I think that's Brandon Ingram and Anthony Simons.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah, dude. Oh,
that would be
like,
heat.
the matchups could be so crazy. Like,
Especially like the fan bases too that you see like on social media too. They would be
yeah.
using this as their shining. Like imagine like Scottie paid Paolo.
Yes,
Just
dude.
the war that would
Oh,
ensue.
it's the
Um,
most negative, regressive thing I think ever, but it's like, yeah, dude, it's like 800,000 people are hanging on every shot, and these guys, oh my god. The
yeah,
stand battles would be legendary because, like,
that,
Shea and Donovan don't even guard each other, but the meet off is legendary, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Can you
He's
imagine them going
mentioning it
head to
now in
head?
interviews. That'd be incredible.
Wow.
Adam Silver has the keys, man. He just got to make these guys stop being cowards.
They
Unrival's doing a great thing.
they make so much money, dude. Like, you can't
Yeah,
get these guys to do anything. You know
not a
what I
dunk.
mean? Yeah, they
Yeah,
won't dunk. They definitely won't play one-on-one. But yeah,
yeah,
I think that it's not you can't revive the dunk contest. It's over, dude. But I think a one-on-one competition, that would be everything. Oh my
yep.
god. That's what I want. Yeah. That's what I'm dreaming on, dude. Post All-Star break. What are we hoping for these Raptors?
I I think what you're hoping for is you get another Grady like superstar run. You
Yeah.
you need like 10, 15 games of him averaging like 17, 18. Because I imagine like with Quickley's injuries, he's probably not going to play every single night. They're probably going to manage his body overall. So he's gonna get some run and like
Yeah, he's gonna have
Jakob.
some crazy designation. It's gonna be like, so
Yeah.
it'll be like, like vitamin D management, or it'll be like
Yeah.
vitamin C. Like something will come up on the sheet, and I'll be like, oh, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, so like he's gonna get his time and moments to put up a lot of shots, especially probably to like the back half of like March. So I want a big run from that, either from him or Jacoby, honestly. And can I get an Ulrich Chomche start? If I if I get an Ulrich Chomche start, I will make sure that I attend this game. I promise that I'm going to another 905 game, but I need that badly in my spirit. But I think if I were to guess, because a lot of people have been talking about the over under for Brandon Ingram playing, I'm going to say 15 games he plays. I think that's on the high side though.
That definitely is on the higher side, especially like everybody's so excited. He's like, I'm gonna be an all-star here again. That's what they want from me. And they're like,
Yeah.
all right, when do you come back? He's like, we don't really know. We're just hanging out, just feeling the vibe, seeing how it goes. Also, a SpongeBob fixation for Mr. Ingram.
Mm, it was
Like,
clean though.
well, yeah, he dresses well, but I don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. I love SpongeBob. At my age, I could watch any SpongeBob episode now. But being
Yeah.
dripped out in SpongeBob is like, damn. And he has the stickers. He is to SpongeBob what Mackay Bruce is to Sonic. It's he. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I just feel like you need to. I would want them to have some sort of rapport heading into season, and not have to figure out as much heading into next year. Because next year you're trying to make the playoffs, and like realistically, they're not catching the Hornets. I believe they're already 4 games up on them. The Raptors are going to naturally win more games, especially when Jakob
Probably.
is like they can't hide Jakob the entire season. So like they're gonna win games, and they're not getting. I don't think getting a top 4 spot's realistic. If they stay between 5 to 7, I think that's fine.
So they have, I guess it would be 27 games left. 15 would be really high for Brandon then.
Oh yeah,
That's
there's
over
less
half.
games left though. Yeah,
So 27 games left, and we have to fit in a 17, 18 point per game stretch, 10, 12 games for Gradey, hopefully.
yeah,
Maybe a nice little pop off for Jacoby. We got to see some of Brandon. Probably not 15 games, but
yeah.
maybe not even double digits. You know what I mean? But it's like you said, we want to see these guys together because we didn't get to see the guys together last year. And then we said,
Yeah,
okay, well, we'll see them together this year. And then that didn't happen either. And it's just like,
yeah.
there's enough health stuff, man. But that's another thing, too, is like, listen, if anything remotely looks like it might flare up with Brandon, hey, take the day off.
Yeah,
Take the week off, man.
please.
This season, it doesn't matter. We'll see you at training camp. Like, honestly, they can have
Yeah.
that kind of patience with it if they need to. And an Ulrich Chomche start. That
Oof.
you're not going to be able to plan for that one though, dude.
Yeah, it's gonna just be
Unless you're
random.
picking out like this is the game. You've been pretty good at predictions this year.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
a random game. I think I'm gonna have to use some insider. Like you just have to like drop me like a Cameroon flag in my text, and I'll just like start going in.
No, dude. You're not gonna catch me in the Rico case like those guys who they're like, "Oh, yeah, somebody told me this guy's gonna be injured." And then, 18 months later, "FBI!" You know what I mean? Like, it's not for me, brother. I have I have no interest in releasing the gambling info early. Uh, as much as I'd like you to see Ulrich start a game, you're probably gonna have to rely on S for the hookup to that one.
Fair enough.
Oh, dude. Anything else? I mean, I want Quickley. Ooh, let's do that. I want Quickley to
Yeah,
shoot over 9 3-point attempts per game for the
please,
rest. Hoist them up, dude. Let's
please.
see it. I guess
Yeah,
Scottie score, have fun,
yeah,
and if he can play this level of defense through the back end of the season, that's going to tell me something about him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know if I've seen a player on a team this bad give you like 55 games of just bastard defense night in and night out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Scottie, to his credit, there's been a bunch of stuff that hasn't gone his way this year, but every single night he walks out there and he will front guys, he'll play deny defense, he'll rotate to the
Hmm.
rim, he will hunt rebounds, he'll even be angry at other guys for taking a rebound away from him. Like he's out there and he's after it. If he goes
Yeah,
55 games of this defense, geez, because he's talked about his conditioning in the past and how he wanted to improve it. His conditioning looks incredible to
yeah,
his credit. Yeah, just like fun Scottie to end because Scottie is the key to everything here. He
yeah,
makes things valid or viable.
yeah. Like I I've been asking for this. I even if it's like 6 games, just decent shooting from three. I think he had like a 5 game stretch. He shot like 36%, but it wasn't anything.
That's
Uh,
poverty, dude.
yeah,
That's like
that's nothing crazy.
because he had a 30 game stretch last year where he shot
Yeah,
39%.
yeah,
And then that made everybody kind of recalibrate and be like, "Oh, so he'll be a good shooter." And then since then, he's shooting like 28% on like a lot of
yeah.
attempts. He's north of 900 attempts from 3 on his career, and he's at 30%. Now, the numbers guys are going to tell you this is no bueno. People can always prove the model
Yeah,
wrong, but the stats are not in Scottie's favor.
yeah,
However, he's got good touch. He's got a pretty simple jumper. Darko expressed confidence in him coming around. I also believe that the
Yeah.
catch and shoot 3-pointer, standstill 3-pointer will come around in some way. The pull up stuff, who knows? That's a whole other deal. It's really tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree on this. That, but like honestly, if he gets to league average catch and shoot shooter, that's honestly all he
Hmm.
realistically needs. I don't need him to ever shoot a pull up three again. It bails all the defense in what he can do. He's one of those guys like whether he gets to the rim or not, like creates resistance and force just by how strong he is. Most the Cavs are a rare example. Most opposing force honestly can't take a bump from him without help defense on the other side. And
Could you imagine
he
being a guy who's like trying to guard Scottie
just ugh,
every time down the floor, and then he pulls up from three? You're like, thank you, Jesus, Lord in heaven.
just honestly thank God. So like he's in a he's in a position where like he when he does play with Brandon Ingram, like he can become one of like the more efficient scorers in the league just by doing the junk man stuff, getting getting the occasional mid range jumper, and then play finishing off of whatever Brandon provides, or RJ coming off of secondary actions and things like that. That's like he could sleepwalk to 20 doing a lot of those stuff. So not really concerned. I just need like give me a 10 games where you shoot 38 to 40% from three, so I could just feel better, and then I can use this as a talking point for the rest of the summer. Please and thank you.
We do need we're a little light on talking points. Like Brandon Ingram
Yeah.
saved the talking points.
Yes.
There's been 2 or 3 times this season, and we've talked about it on the podcast where we've been like, we're talking about Gradey again." You know what I mean? And like this podcast, we've hardly had to talk about Gradey, but
Yeah.
you know, we've broken down things on this podcast. We've dedicated time. Like we did like 15 minutes on Jacoby and Mogbo in this podcast.
Yeah.
Is that happening like in a lot of other places? Probably not. You know what I
No.
mean? Oh man. But I feel like talking points were hot and heavy in this one. We did well. Feels like a
Mhm.
podcast, right?
Yeah. That's good.
Anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here? An all-star weekend sign off.
I for people who have messed me, I'm actively watching film
Mm.
now. I'm in I'm in I put on scouter tray hats. I'm ready to go. So like drop any prospects that you guys are interested in that you guys want to see us talk about in the comments, and then I will get to it. I don't know when we're gonna start like actually talking about stuff, but
Well,
when I do,
let me
you
ask
don't
you,
have you don't
did
have
I
faith in this team.
well that's true. I was gonna ask you though, did I start you earlier than you wanted? Because I signed you up for it. You know what I mean?
No,
I was like, Trey and I are doing it now, and you're like, oh brother, you know what I mean?
I'm just a dramatic soul. Like my plan always was like all star game anyways. Just I assume the
Mhm.
Raptors are gonna go heavy tank. I didn't think they were gonna trade for freaking Brandon Ingram though. So that probably saved us like 2 weeks worth of like talking points. Honestly,
Frick, there it was again. It's just I'm keeping a tab in my mind. That's maybe number 4 or 5. I think we should talk about Cooper at the back end of February. Like,
yeah,
actually
yeah,
10, 15 minutes, Cooper Flagg. Maybe he's a Raptor. Maybe we bring on our GOAT, Josh
wow,
Codenaire, to talk about him with us. Who knows? But especially since Josh on the now and the hidden in the history of podcast, the road trip podcast,
yeah,
Josh compared some of the offensive process that Cooper has to Brandon. But yeah,
mm,
we'll talk Cooper, maybe
just,
Harper at the end of February,
yeah,
and then there'll be because we don't get to watch Harper in March Madness, dude. Isn't that
jeez,
crazy, man? Holy
yeah.
moly, they just lose games.
Well, it's tough, yeah, because NIL's changed things. Like the best guys, like they're going to Duke, they're usually going to Kentucky, but now they're spread out across the board. Like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, John Wall never ever considers going to Rutgers.
Yeah,
And so they're going to bad teams now. So it's a bit rough, but I'm gonna trug along. I'm gonna put on my scouter hat, and we will deliver you some great content, and we'll deliver you the Raptors their next pick.
that's. Nobody's brought up that Ingram and RJ are both Duke boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Because I know like everybody was like, oh, Zion and Ingram are Duke boys, and obviously Zion and RJ were at Duke at the same time. I wonder if there's anything there. It's weird that it's not been
Yeah.
talked about. And I'm not trying to cast aspersions, but this is something that usually people would talk about. I mean, Ochai and Gradey talked about it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, I think for some reason, like Brandon Ingram doesn't have like the Duke like stamp. I don't think of Duke when I think of Brandon for some reason.
maybe, well, they weren't that good a team, maybe. Geez,
Yeah,
I don't even know,
yeah,
honestly. But also, like, Pascal is that way too. He's like, why? He's like, I don't care about my college team. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Why? Like, and
yeah.
that's also college gets a little bit too much gas. You know what I mean? It's 1 year, but for the rest of your career, it's like, oh yeah, he's from the University of Miami. It's
I
like,
don't know.
dude,
It's odd. We're Canadian though. Like I've
yeah.
never like taken on my university as like a stamp and label on myself. But I know people like. Well, I went to Windsor, so I know people like who went to U of Mich and would say like I bleed blue and yellow. They go to the games every weekend.
How
But
did they
I don't
do
know.
that, man? Like they did a great job. They
Yeah,
got people invested in stuff that it's just like, yeah, we're a bunch of freaks for this. Like the U of S when I was going there, they had a good
yeah.
like basketball team, but was I going there and be like, let's go? No, dude. And
No,
like on the one hand, it's not as high a level of basketball, but on
yeah,
well, I guess that's maybe part of it. But again, like I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, the University of Windsor, like if you were like like a rock star, you're like, dude, I'll die for Windsor, brother. Like that would be crazy.
I couldn't tell you the mascot. I want to say it's a Spartan. Please, if anyone went to the school, don't kill me. I want to say it's a Spartan though.
What was the mascot of your high school?
Um, a Celtic.
A Celtic. Wow, a
Yeah.
Spartan and a Celtic. Mine
Oh,
was
Windsor's a Lancer. Damn.
a Lancer. Oh, I guess that it's like a knight, right? Of
Yeah.
sorts.
Yeah.
It's close
Yeah.
enough.
Some
Yeah, the U of S is Huskies, which is a
Huskies.
yeah. They actually have a good logo. They have
Mm,
pretty good jerseys, I think. And then my high school was the Trojans, and yeah, we had blue and orange colors. Pretty ugly
mm.
jerseys. Pretty ugly jerseys. I'll be honest. What color was your high school jerseys?
So I went to two different high schools. So the first one I went to was black and white with like blue. It was a Husky. But then
Jeez,
the one I graduated from, white and green, just like the Celtics.
white and green. Those are affluent colors, you know.
Yeah.
Did you get recruited to that school? They're like, we need you to play for us, dude.
The f the
The
f
grinder schools don't wear white and green, man.
so the first one I went to was like a active basketball school. So like they're looking at teams like they're looking at kids and they're like, don't go to this Catholic school. You want to go here if you want to play basketball, stuff like that.
Mm,
But
yeah, makes sense. Well, that's how you get the stories of like, I mean,
yeah,
I played basketball in Saskatchewan, and I have some fun little Gonzaga
yeah,
stories, but I didn't play against Wiggins growing up. But you're like, yeah, I
yeah,
did. It's fun little
yeah.
stuff. Anyway, we had this podcast as a short one, and then I just kept asking questions. What a shame, dude. What? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel. Hopefully you enjoyed this. New listeners, old listeners, all the people. Thanks for tuning in with us. Trey, any final thoughts?
This break is going to be good for both you and I and everyone else. So enjoy the break, enjoy the weekend, and anyone like myself doing last minute scrambling for Friday, I wish you luck.
Yeah, no kidding, dude. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, from myself and Trevon, have a blessed day and goodbye.